This is Real Talk. We discuss important issues in our world and how we as humanity can come together, overcome our obstacles, and move forward towards a bright and beautiful future. I'm Sunny Galt. I'm a messenger with United Network News, and you can check us out at unitednetwork.tv. On today's Real Talk, we're talking about how to hold on to your light regardless of what life throws your way. And our special guest today on Real Talk is Kerry K. Now, you may be familiar with Kerry's YouTube channel, where she offers spiritual guidance to help us remember who we truly are and to help guide us back home. Kerry, welcome to Real Talk.
Oh, thank you so much, Sunny. It's beautiful to be here. Thank you.
Well, I am a fan. I really appreciate your work. I appreciate everything that you do. I subscribe to your YouTube channel. And one of the things that I have seen is the similarities between the stuff that you're talking about, the stuff we talk about here on Real Talk, and then even on the news, because we have a newscast that we do a few days a week. And the similarities are incredible. And, you know, we're talking about timelines converging. You're talking about timelines converging. And so that's how I originally found your work. And I know you talk a lot about, you know, being here on this planet at this time, holding on to your light, which is the main focus of what we're going to talk about today. But I wanted to start just by learning a little bit more about you and maybe talking about how you even knew you had a light to hold on to and to be an anchor here on this planet. So when did that start for you?
Well, it started without me knowing that it started, because when I was born, I was really, really ill. And I didn't see that as a blessing, and I didn't see it as a good thing, and I didn't see it as part of my soul's purpose. But as life moved on, I began to see, wait a minute, you know, I always see things differently to everybody else. And I understand things in a way that I know nobody else gets it. And I hear stuff nobody else can hear, and I see stuff nobody else can see. And it took me a long time to understand, oh yeah, you know, when I was little, and when I talk about little, like from pretty much the age of 2 to 12, I spent more time in those 10 years in hospital than I did at home. I was sick. I was permanently on the brink of life and death. And spending so much time there, in that in-between place, that's where it all began. That was the gift and the blessing. So what I didn't know was happening at the time was I was having the opportunity to transcend the matrix. Every time I was having what I now understand to be a near-death experience, what I then thought, oh, I'm just sick. Now I get it. Ah, what genius on behalf of my soul that was, because it was a plan to spend so much time outside the influence of the matrix so that now, as an adult, I can bring that home, literally bring that light, bring that truth, bring that message into the false matrix where we all still live, but we're in the process of collapsing this false matrix and literally flooding it with our light. And we do that from our body, not from our brain, not from our linearity, not from our logic and our thoughts, which is why people don't even need to understand. You don't need to understand because, you know, we're all human. And we all think that that's what it takes to be successful in life and to be potent in life is how much do you understand spirituality, and your purpose here on this planet has nothing to do with what you understand, but everything to do with what your energy is. And that's the light that you're talking about, Sunny. It's your field of consciousness. So that's where it all got activated in serious illness. But I see the plan, I see the beauty, I see how it all came together now.
So you talked about traveling outside the false matrix. What was that like for you? Like, what did you experience? What did you feel? How often did it happen? I know you said you were in and out of hospitals as a child, you know, so was it those near-death experiences where you would travel out? And then what did you see? What did you experience?
Peace. Absolute peace. Connection, stillness. You know what the crazy thing to me is? Somebody once said to me, Kerry, how do you know all this stuff? And I looked so earnestly at this person and I said, how do you not know? It was then, Sunny, that I realized, oh, right. And I was in my 20s then, right? And it was then that I realized, backtrack, oh yeah, I spent all that time outside the matrix. And what it was a non-verbal, non-linear place, which most people can't comprehend. Most people are so stuck in the chatterbox brain that that's what they claim as their identity. So they claim all of those thoughts as the real self. And we say, I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking about that, but who's the I? So when I was in that transcendent place, there was no I, there was a we. There was a sense of the universe and me being one thing. And there was such a knowingness. It wasn't anything like the linear need to understand that we have in our everyday lives. It wasn't anything like that. There was no chatterbox brain. There were no linear words, no linear thoughts. But there was consciousness, there was presence, there was peace, there was transcendence. So it was an energetic experience. And yeah, there were times that I saw stuff, but that was never the focal point. The focal point was always the presence. And it's one of the things that I teach people today is how to get into presence. Because do you know how strange it was for me? People said, what? And it was a very common question. People would say, what is the secret to enlightenment? And I would say, connection, presence, and stillness. In any order, doesn't matter, that's the key to enlightenment. And they would say, okay, what does that mean? And that blew my brain. I was like, what do you mean? What does it mean? It means connection, presence, and stillness. Because most people want to take the dictionary definition of the word and somehow have the experience, but no dictionary definition is going to enable the experience of connection to God, to life, to the universe, to presence. It is a literal state of being. You asked me earlier, how often did this happen? It was a crazy thing. I had severe asthma when I was little, but the crazy part was you could almost measure it on a calendar. Every 2 weeks is the answer. Like every 2 weeks I was in hospital. I was home for 2 weeks, hospital for 2 weeks. And during the 2-week hospital stint, around about a week of that time, I was gone. And when I say gone, what I really mean is gone out of the false matrix and present in presence itself. And that became my home. And you know what was so astounding about that place was that's where I felt most alive. That's where life happened. When it looked like I was dying, when it looked like my body was so depleted that I could barely breathe, that I was blue, blah, 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 it was then that I was so far outside of the false matrix that I was in real life. And you know, the contrast was astounding because then I would come back into my body and go, oh God, everything is so slow now. Everything is so linear now. You know, that was a difficult transition to be, you can imagine, right? This phenomenal peace, this phenomenal consciousness, and you are it, Sunny. When you're in that place, you are the wind, you are the sun, you are the breeze, you are the trees, you are presence of life itself, you are every planet simultaneously, all at once. You are the entire universe, and you can feel yourself breathing and pulsing as this consciousness. And then, poof, you're in a human body again.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like fun.
That was the difficult part was not leaving the body. The difficult part was coming back in every time. That was really, sometimes that was physically painful to come in. And I understood why babies cry so much, because they're coming into the body for the first time. And you feel so, when you're so expansive and then suddenly you compress into this eeny weeny tiny little body, it's difficult. And sometimes very painful and sometimes really scary, because you're taking all of you and condensing it into a space that you know you can't fit into because it's too small for you. And you feel like you're losing something when that happens. You feel like you're being disconnected from your true self when that happens.
Yeah, which you are, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, you are. And then life, the gift and the journey of life is, now can you get it back? Now, can you be in the body, the physical form that's perceived smallness, and in your vastness at the same time? That's the real journey, right? That's what we call the spiritual journey. It's it's the remembering of who you are.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So when you would travel outside of the false matrix, was there anybody helping you and guiding you, or was it just you just knew all of this and you really didn't need any guidance?
Exactly. There was no need for guidance, because when you're in that universal mind, that's where I was. I was in the universal mind. Imagine the universe itself needing a guide. It wouldn't, because you're the universe. So
Right.
what was interesting for me was, at that time when I was holding the experience of being the universe, or at least the universal mind or the universal consciousness, at that time, no, I didn't need a guide. But then I got well, then I got healthy, and then it was weird because then I didn't have that means to go
Yeah.
into that place anymore. I felt like I lost that. And it was then, so now we're talking teenage years into early 20s. That's the time period. And in that time period, then I got a group of guides that came in. And the reason that they came in is because I'd had all of that interaction from outside the matrix. And I was so yearning to rekindle that connection, because it was such blissful, ecstatic peace. Imagine a peace that is ecstasy. That's what it feels like in that universal mind. So the guides came in, and they didn't come in and go, "Hey, Kerry, we're your guides." You know, it wasn't it wasn't anything like that. It was a very normal conversation with what
Okay.
I perceived at the time to be very normal beings. That I was aware that they weren't human as in earth human.
Right.
They were physical though. And my interaction with them was kind of like a family meeting. That's what it felt like. These particular beings, I came to call them the galactics. And that was my way of saying these are non-terrestrial beings. They're from all over the galaxy. Many of them were different race groups, different forms, different star systems that they'd come from. And they had come together as a group of 5D beings, and some of them were even a little bit beyond 5D. They had come together to support me in supporting humanity. I didn't know that I was going to get this role. I just knew that I now needed a bridge to piece together that universal mind that I'd interacted with, and then the human Kerry. I needed some kind of bridge. So then the galactics came in. And we had very real-time conversations, very physical. And I share this with you because so many people talk about channeling, which is not a bad thing. It's just something that I never did. I never went into seance or into channel or into mediumship or anything like that. It was conversations with these beings, as physical as your and my conversation. But what they were doing was showing me how 5D beings interact, how they converse. They were showing me from the inside what we as humanity are going to become, which is a race of telepathic beings, harmonious beings, enlightened beings. That's what we're in the journey towards. And we're doing it. So many people can't even envision this. We're doing it in the skin, meaning in this lifetime. We don't have to drop the body to get there. We're doing something so phenomenal in this life. We are preparing for ascension. We are literally preparing the physical body, not the brain. Your brain doesn't have to even know how this works or be able to wrap itself around what we're in the process of doing. But at the level of the physical form, we are in the journey of alchemy right now, which is the transformation of the dense physical body that we're in into a light-bodied version of ourselves. So they were, in a sense, the models, you could say, that allowed me to see, oh, that's what it looks like. That's how we behave with each other. That's how we have family meetings, you know, that's how we come together. That's what respect looks like. Okay, got it. That's what integrity looks like. Ah, got it. That's how we work through emotions. Got it. So the guides, we're not there like teachers teaching me stuff. Instead, they were showing me through real-time interaction with them, this is what we would call enlightenment. This is what enlightenment looks like. So I got to spend many years in those conversations, not even realizing that I was being taught. I never saw that as a class. I never saw that as me learning anything. I literally just saw it as interaction with home. If you said to me, what are you doing? I would have said to you, I'm interacting. This is home, and I'm interacting with it. If you said to me, why? I would have said, I have no idea, but I'm very grateful for it.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know, but it's awesome. And now, if you ask me why, I would say to you, oh, well, that was obvious. It was so that I could show other people this is what we become. This is
Yeah.
how we behave when we're in a higher frequency. This is how we work through our stuff. Because they could also, the galactics could also get irate about things. They could also get upset about things, hurt about things. But to
Mhm.
witness 5D beings resolve things, to witness them discharge energy, which they do literally in seconds, allowed me to see, okay, it's doable, it's easy, it's our nature. And what we do here on planet Earth, in the sense that we analyze the hell out of everything,
Oh, yeah.
we have this incessant need to understand everything. All of that stuff slows us down and keeps us stuck. Because now I got the contrast, you see. I could
Mhm.
see how human beings do it, and I could see how enlightened galactic beings did it.
Yeah.
Beautiful to see both groups, because then you can pinpoint that's what doesn't work, that's what does work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it sounds fascinating. How did you stay like a normal human being during this whole process? Because, in the beginning, you were going back and forth, when you would have these near death experiences. And you mentioned that that was a difficult transition for you because it was so beautiful there. And then you come into contact with these 5D beings that are, helping us understand where we are and, why we're here at this time and what's going to happen. Was that kind of a hard transition to have those conversations and be like, oh, this is real life and I got to do the dishes and my kids this? And
Yeah.
was that a challenge for you as well?
What I'm going to say is perhaps going to sound not so elegant, okay? But I'm just going to say it how it is.
Yeah.
As a kid, again, I didn't see the perfection at the time, but as a kid, I was so reclusive. I was so fat. I had no friends. I didn't want to speak to anyone. Nobody wanted to speak to me. So it was really easy, Sunny. I didn't have a life, so to speak. I didn't have sports that I played at school. I didn't have a social circle. I had the only time I ever was awake and interactive in life was in those conversations with the galactics. And I was
Yeah.
incredibly blessed that my mom understood all of this and I could talk to her. And she
Oh,
made it very normal for me. But
okay.
I didn't, as such, go to what we would call the real world and have very real world interactions. I went to school, I came home, I spoke to very few people. So it was
Okay.
easy because I wasn't very invested in what people would call everyday life. I wasn't really there. I showed up for school and that was about it, So it
Yeah.
was easy as far as I'm concerned because I wasn't in any way invested in anything taking place in that sphere. And then when I was in my early 20s, a crazy thing happened. I was teaching spiritual work and I
Mhm.
happened to overhear a group of people, they were my students, and I overheard them say the following. They said, Kerry will never understand what it's like because she's never had a corporate job. And, she wakes up when she wants to wake up and she does what she wants to do. So she'll never understand the hardship of being human. And my ears pricked up because I overheard this, you see. So I said, okay,
Mhm.
so you want me to be like you, which means I have to have a corporate job. Okay. And so I did that. I went and I got a corporate job. I worked in travel for 5 years. It was supposed to be 3 months, but 3 months became 5 years. And so I had that. So I almost did that to be human. That was my journey in what people call the real world. And it was
Mm.
a crazy journey. And I saw everything that I hoped that I wouldn't see. I interacted with greed and backstabbing and all the human stuff, all the trials, all the tribulations, all the pain and the anguishes and everything that goes along with it. I interacted with all of that. I totally lost myself. Totally forgot who
Mm.
Kerry was because, I was busy earning money and being a big shot. And then I came out of all of it. And I went straight back into my spiritual work and life made sense again. So I had a 5-year stint. We could say it like that. I had a 5-year
Okay.
stint in the real world and and I'm grateful for it because it really did actually give me a tremendous understanding and compassion for where people are and for
Yeah.
how easy it is to lose yourself.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
that was the sum total of my full-time interaction in that place.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and it is important to have those kind of experiences, because if not, how can you interact? How can you be that guide and help people? Because if you can't relate to them and they can't relate to you,
Exactly.
it doesn't work. So, and I
Yeah.
think you have that, from your early days of feeling sick and stuff like that, and feeling the confines of your physical body, right? But then
Mhm.
also, just kind of the grind, what we would call the grind, right? Get set your alarm, wake up in the morning, go pay this bill, go do all this kind of stuff, because that's the real stuff that people are dealing with right now. And sometimes when you say, not you per se, but when we say stuff like, hold your light, people are like, what kind of crazy talk is that? I got to do this, 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 and this. So
Exactly.
when we say that, Kerry, when we say hold your light, what are we talking about? What is the light? How would you define that for people that are just hearing this and going, what in the world? What is
Yeah.
our light, Kerry?
It's your consciousness. And your consciousness is directly related to how present, in presence, as presence can you be. So if you think about yourself, and where most people spend most of their time, it's in a state of distraction. Scrolling
Yes.
social media, having even a conversation with a friend, there is monumental distraction. And we are so normalized to life in the distraction that when we get present, we feel like something's wrong. So when I do
Mm-hmm.
guided meditation for people, a lot of the time they say, I got scared. They say, I zoned out. They say, I fell asleep, which isn't really sleep. It's just them copping out of where they are. All of these things are very normal. But what they show is we don't know how to be present. We forgot how to be conscious instead of distracted. So when we talk about hold your light, be your light, connect with your light, we're talking about be conscious in presence as presence. And what is presence? Presence is that universal energy. You might call it God, you might call it the universe itself, but to be conscious of yourself immersed in that presence and showing up as that presence, it evokes something inside of you. It evokes that higher self within you, which does not speak in words.
Yep.
It doesn't speak in logic. That is not its language. And if you think about it, nobody came in with words. We learnt words, whether English was our first language or whatever it might be. We learnt
Mm-hmm.
those words later on in life. But we came in very well versed in the language of our soul, which is the language of energy, which is love, which is presence. So that's actually the language we're the most fluent in. It's our organic, natural language. And when we talk about hold your light, we're saying go back to that language and the you that speaks that language of presence. And a great way to connect with that, because we've lost it, a great way to connect with it is simply feel the breath that you're breathing, because we're normally so unconscious of our breath.
Mm.
Thankfully, our breath happens without us directing it. Okay.
Very true. Yes.
if we had to direct our breath, we'd have a real problem. So a great thing to do is to become conscious of the unconscious. And your breath
Mm.
is a great means of bringing yourself into that presence. It's a great practice ground of learning to just stay present with something that is not the chatterbox brain. So it kind of teaches you. It's a good school ground to learn to become focused outside the chatterbox brain and into your energetic unfolding. Because if you sit with your breath for long enough, you're going to get deeply relaxed. You're going to start trusting the flow of the breath. You're going to stop trying to change the flow of the breath. And you're just going to learn to witness, to be. And a deep relaxation ensues. Because as much as we forgot how to relax, as much as we forgot how to be present and how to connect with our consciousness, we also forgot how to relax. We
Yes.
even see relaxation as luxury. People say to
Yeah.
me, I don't have the time for relaxation. And I'm going, oh my God. So what you're telling me when you say, I don't have the time for relaxation, what a person's saying to me is, I don't have time for me.
Yeah.
I don't have time for my alignment, my wellness, my well-being, my health, my vitality. Relaxation is fundamental to life.
Mm-hmm.
Breath brings you back into all those fundamentals. It reminds you how to expand and trust something beyond the confines of the false matrix. And your breath is this, it's kind of like this lovely in-between passageway that takes you into, if you let it, it takes you into presence and consciousness, and therefore into more of your own light.
Yeah.
And you know, Sunny, one of the things that we've done on this planet is we've learned how to trust and how to look for other people's light. And we do that all the time, right? We might identify with a celebrity and go, oh, you know, I love their message.
Right.
And their songs and their movies. And so we identify, or it could be a spiritual person even, doesn't matter. We identify with other people's light instead of our own.
Yeah.
And the most important thing that we're actually here to do is to reconnect with who we really are, which can only be found by getting present with who we really are. And that's the power. That's the power, right? Of really, truly connecting with your light. That's where you learn who you are. You do not learn who you are through self-help books and through psychological analysis. No matter what you learn, it's still not who you are in your essence. But when you feel your presence and you feel a connection to the you that exists beyond the linearity of your brain, and even a connection to the you that is multidimensional, which means the you that goes beyond what you see in the mirror, your totality. When you start to connect with that, then you're really connecting with light at a beautiful level. And the gorgeous thing is then you get to bring that in. Everything we do at the spiritual level, we get to bring it into the body and bring it into and ground it into this human form. Because a lot of people kind of ignore that. They ignore the human form as if it's some kind of heavy thing that you got to drag around, you know, oh, my body, it's such a pain. It's so difficult. I got to drag this thing everywhere with me.
Yeah.
But this is your ascension vehicle. And when you bring the multidimensional light and your connection to it into the body, you literally enlighten the body. You know? So what you're talking about today is even beyond how do you hold your light? It's more like, why did we even come here to this planet, to this life in the first place? And the answer is to bring that light back home. This is the home, to bring home here through the body, not to escape the body, not to escape the false matrix even, not to escape the planet, but to transcend and transform everything by being the highest expression of light that we can possibly be right here in the body. What a journey.
I love it. I love it. And I love, Kerry, it so resonated me with you when you were talking about how we see other people's light. It's like our subconscious, or we know intuitively, we know that we need that too, that we're, you know, it's so interesting to me because it's already within us, but it's like, we have to go elsewhere for it. That's our, you know, our brain thinking. It's like, oh, well, it's like we're drawn to, it's like a moth to a flame. We're drawn to that. But we're not making the connection of, you know, oh, that's already within me. I just need to rekindle that light again. And I think that's part of this false matrix is looking outward as opposed to looking inward. Completely. And remembering home again. Right?
Yeah. Because we were mastered, instead of being masters, we became mastered by the false matrix.
Yeah.
But we didn't realize that was so that we could find, you use that word rekindle, it's the perfect word, to rekindle the inner mastery.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's beautiful. All right, Kerry, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll learn more about how we can hold on to our beautiful light and what we're here on this planet and all the amazing things that are still to come. So we'll be right back. Welcome to United Network News. I'm Sunny Galt. Connect with United Network News online. Our website at unitednetwork.news recaps the biggest stories impacting our planet. You can also watch inspiring videos from our field messengers and get great tips on creating your own field messenger reports. Easily share all of this content with your friends in just a few clicks, including our social media memes designed to ignite conversation and critical thinking. It's time to restore our home. Let's make history together at unitednetwork.news. Welcome back to Real Talk. Before the break, we were talking about our light, and Kerry was sharing a little bit of her story of how she discovered her light, and she's joining us again. So, Kerry, I mean, there's so much that we can touch on here. We talked a little bit about holding the light and breathing, which I would also say is meditation, right? Are there other things that you would recommend, or is it really just about being in the present? Or are there other things that you would mention to go along with that?
Practice, because we've kind of got this mentality of, okay, I did something once, now I should be a master. So like once I connected with my breath for 10 whole minutes, so obviously, you know, I've done everything there is to do now. Yeah. Instead of understanding this needs to become a daily practice. So imagine what it would be like if you woke up in the morning, you go brush your teeth, and you're present with every brush stroke. You're actually in the moment. And you know what a lot of people say to me? They roll their eyes and they go, oh God, Kerry, that sounds boring. And then I get really worried because I go, really? You're telling me that you would be bored by being inside the moment, by being that present with life, that you are hyper aware of each and every single brush stroke, each and every single breath. It's almost like, imagine that you could dilate time. That's what it feels like when you're hyper present. It's as if time has dilated to the point almost that it stops. Yeah. And 10 seconds becomes a really long time because you can feel your heart beating in those 10 seconds. You can feel life in those 10 seconds. You can feel God in those 10 seconds. Everything slows right down. And you expand into this dilated field of consciousness that is enthralling, not boring. Yeah. You see, we became so trapped. We became so trapped in the overthinking of the false matrix, in the over-analysis, and we've become addicted to the trappings. So the how-to, as we move forward, the how-to involves daily practice, because you've now got to break the habit of being mastered by the false matrix and living in that world, which means practice your breath, practice being present. Guided meditations, to me, especially for people who have real chatterboxy brains, I think guided meditations are really, really nice because it helps to have a voice to listen to that keeps you on track. I think that's really powerful. Connecting with other conscious people, you're obviously creating a platform to do that, and news topics to get people into that expanded mindset. That is so important. Connection with others that are doing the same thing, because it spurs you on and it shows you, oh my gosh, I'm not alone. Oh my gosh, the world is waking up with me. So bring yourself into everyday practice, which should look different. You should. I get really bored if I do the same thing every day. So you should bring, you know, I've just, look at this, Sunny, I've just learned how to knit. And I have become obsessed with this crazy thing called making a scarf. Like it could, seriously, now you want to talk boring. Okay, there it is. This is boring. But you know what it does? It's a way for me to be in the moment. And there I am with my old lady knitting needles, but I freaking love it. That's my way of getting present. But what if everybody did that for themselves every day? So maybe today you're going to draw. Maybe you can't draw, but you're going to draw anyway. Maybe today you're going to do the toothbrushing thing that I spoke about, being present with every brush stroke and just feeling what that feels like, because we literally now have to practice connecting with who we really are. Do not take for granted, oh, I did that meditation that one time, now I'm enlightened. Don't take for granted that you did it once and now you're there. You need to practice every single day and get creative with that practice. But the point of it is to continually meet yourself outside of the chatterbox brain.
Yeah.
That's the meeting place, outside the chatterbox brain.
Mm-hmm. It is so important to connect with people. And when you find your tribe, so to speak, it's a very beautiful thing. And I'm so glad that more and more people are waking up to this. But we obviously still live, you know, in this false matrix, and there's a lot of people that aren't awake. So I would love to know from your perspective, being, going through everything that you have gone through and knowing what is it difficult? Are you able to still connect with humanity in the day-to-day crazy matrix life? Are you able to somehow disconnect so you don't fall back into it, like you were talking about that 5-year period where you kind of went into it? Or how does that work for you? Because a lot of people may be listening to this going, well, I know I've got a light, but I've also got this I've got to do, and I take care of my parents, and I do all this. So it's so easy, you're right, to kind of slip back into that.
It is. It's really, really easy to slip back in. So eventually, with enough practice, you come to a place where you witness. Remember, I spoke about witnessing your breath. Eventually, you learn to translate that into life. So what happens is you learn to witness life, but not react. And what happens is the part of you that witnesses is your higher consciousness. So it's kind of like the light of your higher consciousness starts looking through your eyes and seeing life through your lens, but bringing its wisdom into the world. And then what happens is the same events will take place. The same political players will still be on your TV screen, but you won't take it seriously. You'll start seeing through all of that, and you'll start seeing how perfectly aligned everything actually is to bring humanity into awakening. You'll start seeing, instead of, oh, I'm a victim to the picture that I'm seeing, you'll start seeing how perfect is this picture that I'm seeing, because it's helping people to see through it. Sometimes something's got to be that transparent. It's got to be that obvious and in your face that you can only but see through it. So that's where we're going as a collective. We're being encouraged to see the craziness of life as the witness, instead of the person reacting to the craziness. See it as the witness, knowing that it's your higher self witnessing it. And then you certainly get a different and a higher vantage point of what's going on. And you stop feeling like life is happening to you. And, I know it's cliche, but it is true that life is happening for you. You start really feeling that. You start really living that. And suddenly when that happens, and sometimes it may only happen for a second. That's great. Just take that second and love the 1 second that you got of release from the false matrix. And know, okay, if I got a 1 second ticket out, I can get a 10-second ticket out. I can get a minute. I can get a 60-second. Hell, I could even get an hour, right? So you keep building up your credit score, so to speak, of time spent in that peace, outside of that hyper reactivity, and in that higher consciousness. You keep that daily practice going, and eventually you start living there. And you know what? You're designed to live there. You're not designed to participate in unconsciousness indefinitely. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people act as if this is normal. A lot of people act as if, you spoke about, losing consciousness, losing the light, so to speak, and then moving back into that unconscious mode. We've done it so many times, and the truth is we can all do it. But for me personally, if it does happen, oh my gosh, it feels wrong. It feels like life is hitting me from all angles, and it's kind of like this voice saying, Kerry, unless you get present like now, it's not going to feel very good. And that's the thing. Living in unconsciousness starts to not feel very good. It doesn't pay to live in the victimhood. It doesn't pay to live in the unconsciousness. It does. And it starts to feel really good to live in your light. It starts to feel really invigorating, enthralling, wholesome. It starts to feel miraculous even when you engage at the level of consciousness. So there's a reward there. You almost look for that place every single day once you've spent 1 second there. 1 second in peace, 1 second, that's all you need. 1 second of stillness, because now you've got that ripple that will forever, literally, forever live in your field. And you'll always want it again. You will always want to revisit that peace. So we can all do it. We can all numb out and go unconscious, but it's going to get harder and harder to stay. in the unconsciousness, and conversely, easier and easier to access the light, to access the higher consciousness. That's our nature. And if we remember that, if we remember, I'm born to do this, and this is who I organically, naturally, actually am, then it helps us to understand it's not a big deal. Living in our consciousness is our normal. And living in unconsciousness is highly, highly abnormal and highly, highly difficult.
Yeah.
We've done it, but it just is never going to be our nature to live there indefinitely. Never.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we talk a lot about all the things that are happening right now and what a beautiful time it is to be alive, to be on this planet. And I believe anyone that is watching this video is here for a reason. You may be a light worker or whatever title you give yourself, but it is, holding on to that light. Kerry, I wanted to talk about some of the things that you have talked about in your recent YouTube videos, which is, some of the things that you have seen, that you have gone through, where maybe it was more of a challenge to hold on to that light, right? Mm-hmm. Things that are, current things that we're going through. Can you tell us a little bit about that? And then, maybe what you did, to maintain that.
Yeah. That's a really good question, because I think a lot of people are going to be experiencing what I'm about to talk about. And that is, the more light that we hold, which means the more consciousness, which means the more love, the more compassion, the more kindness, the more care, the more overall goodness we can have the capacity to hold within us, the more we ripple that light. And we live in a world right now where we have a lot of darkness fighting for space, fighting for real estate. So I want you to think of it that way. Think of the world that we live in right now as being this crazy space that we've honestly never been in before. Before, everything was very compartmentalized. Light lived over here and dark lived over there. Now, the two are literally on each other's doorstep, which means there's this tussle. There's this arm wrestle for real estate. And by nature, light takes up more space. Think about the sun and what it does. It just extends, it radiates its light out. But darkness has a very short bandwidth. So what that means is, by its nature, it takes up less space. The lighter we become, the more we encroach on darkness's space. The more darkness feels like, okay, there's no room for me now. And so it begins to lash out, lunge out. It begins to attack. And no, that doesn't mean everybody, every light worker is going to be attacked, but it's going to be a fairly common thing that as you switch more light on within you, it can antagonize darkness. And number one, it could antagonize your own inner darkness and help you to see the things you were once suppressing, because that is darkness. And number two, it could be the external darkness of others, where suddenly you've got people around you acting crazy. You've got people around you who may have been really stable, really dependable, really good, what you thought of as really good people, and suddenly out of nowhere, they come for you and they're just acting so out of character. And a lot of the time, that is the entities and the unconsciousness, or collectively, I just refer to that as the darkness of others, saying, excuse me, your light is taking up too much room. And I need you to diminish your light so that I have more space. That's actually the request of darkness right now. Could you please diminish your light? Could you please shine less bright for me? Because then I'll be more comfortable. That's really, if darkness could speak, that's what it would ask. And light, if light could answer, it would say, no. Just no. That's like asking the sun, could you just tone it down a little bit?
Just dim it down a little bit, please.
Yeah. Not even remotely possible, as we have these huge influxes of cosmic light hitting the planet. We are organically, naturally, inherently becoming lighter with each day. And with each day, darkness becomes more antagonized. So that's something that a lot of people are going to confront right now, or rather be confronted by right now, is the once hidden darkness. Because darkness used to hide. It never wanted to be seen. It never wanted it to be visible. It wanted, and it was a very clever plan, it wanted to keep humanity in distraction, fighting over silly, petty little things, so
Yeah.
that we'd never see the real bad guy, so to speak. The real darkness always maintained itself in secrecy. And it was through that secrecy that it had preservation. I call it separation. Preservation through separation. That was how darkness once operated. And if that occurs, if you are listening and you're going, oh my gosh, that's me, I've been attacked. And you know what the crazy thing is? It could have been by a friend or family member who you once trusted, just going crazy in the presence of your light. 9 times out of 10, that person has no idea that they're behaving that way, because 9 times out of 10, they're not. 9 times out of 10, their entities are directing them. They are not even in charge of their faculties anymore. They're in this kind of knee-jerk response to life, which is the opposite to being conscious. The opposite to light is the unconsciousness. So for people that live there, yeah, they can become really difficult and unpredictable to be around. So then the question is, what the heck do we do? When we can't dim our light and we've got all of this darkness being catalyzed and antagonized and sometimes even lashing out at light, what do we do? The answer is be more light. And when I give that answer, I understand. A lot of people say, oh, Kerry, that's the wrong answer. That's the scary answer. Because, hello, if I'm already being attacked by darkness, and now you want me to shine even brighter, which means become even more present, become even more loving, even more kindness flooding through me, more goodness flooding through me. Most people are afraid to do that right now. They don't want to attract the attention of darkness. They actually, sadly, are unknowingly, unwittingly, unconsciously dimming themselves and dimming their light when they should be doing the opposite, because here's where it's all going to start coming together and making sense. The more light you become, the more that light protects you. And we're not used to that, Sunny, right? We're used to protecting ourselves. Like we go into life as if there is no backup. We go into life as if it's me, baby, it's me and me alone. Meantime, when we catalyze and activate the light within us, and we truly connect and truly feel the divinity within us, at that point, that divinity becomes a radiant field, and you're right in the middle of it. A radiant field, you're in the center of the radiance, and that radiance meets and greets the darkness long before you ever will even know of its presence. And that radiance deals with the darkness so that you don't have to. That's what light does. That's the power of pure consciousness. So when I spoke in the beginning, I spoke about the universal mind, which another way of saying the universal mind is to say God consciousness. When we've activated light to the capacity of God consciousness, that radiance is something that you can honestly surrender into, sink into, lean into, trust, and that protects you. It's not your shield and your sword that's going to protect you right now. Your shield and your sword, which is your defense mechanisms, blocking, shielding, all of those things, that's going to keep you in resistance. That's going to keep you in fear. That's going to keep you locked in unconsciousness because you're in defensive fight mode. Instead, and I know it can feel scary for some people, but if you just breathe through this visual with me, if you just imagine that there is a tiny little spark, tiny, because that's all that light ever needs to be, a tiny little spark inside of you. And that tiny little spark, imagine if I say to you, that is God. Tiny, but it's God. And then you focus there and you go, oh God, that feels good.
Literally. Oh God, that feels good.
Oh God. Like, this is where you can say, oh God, and meaning it, oh God, that feels good. And it's kind of like something in you says, I was yearning, longing for this. And then it grows. Why does it grow? Because you acknowledge it. The more you
Mhm.
validate, feel, and acknowledge that little spark, the more it stops being a little spark and it starts being this radiant sun within you.
Yeah.
And that is your light. That's the stuff that goes out ahead of you. This is what I teach my online community. I meet with them every week and I teach them. They're probably sick of me, but they keep coming back. So I assume that they're learning something, Sunny. I keep
Yeah.
teaching them, send your light out ahead of you so
Mm.
that when you walk your path, your feet are getting there second. Your light is getting there first. And when your light arrives before you do, because it's that radiant, it's that expanded, when your light arrives before you do, it resolves everything for you. And then
Mm.
even if you do deal with difficulty, okay, it's not to say, okay, now life's going to be perfect. Even when you do deal with difficulty, you're dealing with difficulty that is so dilute now, that is lessened now, because your light has already ironed it out for you. And it'll keep doing that. It'll keep doing that. Because I think this is a massive reminder that every light worker needs. Darkness cannot ever taint light.
Mm.
We've been operating under these false ideas that the false matrix taught us, which
Yeah.
was that darkness is a threat to light. Darkness is not a threat to light. Light is a threat to darkness. Because in the presence of light, darkness stops being dark. But in the presence of darkness, light is still light. No
Mhm.
matter how much dark there is, light will always be. And in fact, light's capacity and capability is that it will always transform that darkness into light. That's what it does. So when that light moves out ahead of you into your path, into the world, and it meets the dark before you get there, it does nothing. It literally does nothing to your light. If anything, that darkness starts running. It starts running from your light because it knows, uh-oh. That's a frequency I can't withstand. That's a
Yeah.
frequency I don't want to be around because I can't maintain myself in its presence. I mean, this
Yeah.
is who we are, right? We are these beings of light, of consciousness on the planet with absolute amnesia, acting as if we're powerless, acting as if dark has all the power, acting as if we are somehow separate from our godliness, somehow
Mhm.
separate from our divinity. And that's just not the truth. It's just not.
Yeah. I've witnessed that so many times, Kerry, where I've had some sort of like a fear or something like that. And then I choose to stand in that light, to not run, to not do maybe what my instincts immediately, tell me to do, but I stand in that and it all dissipates. It all goes away. And I'm like, why was I so scared? Like, it's not
Yeah.
there anymore. And it's the light that's overcoming the darkness that I was feeling in that moment. And
Yeah.
then as long as you're standing in that, like you're good, nothing
Exactly.
can stop you. It's beautiful.
Exactly. And so often it's as simple as this: just do the right thing.
Yeah.
It's so simple because we, with our linear logical brains, we overcomplicate everything. And the truth is that life is honestly simple. It may not always be easy, but it is always simple. Truth is simple. And the beautiful thing about light, if somebody's lost and they go, how do I really do this thing? Start with what is the right thing for me to do in this moment? Like maybe you need to make a phone call. What would the right thing be in that phone call? I need to speak to my mom. What would the right thing be to say? I need to speak to a stranger. What is the right thing? We all inherently know the right thing. And if you do that even when no one's looking, and you do that even when you're greeted by the wrong thing, but you keep doing the right thing anyway, that builds your light.
Yeah.
That builds a reservoir of light around you.
Yep.
Right.
It reminds me, I think there's this saying that says, what do I do now? Do the next right thing. You don't have to have the big picture necessarily in mind. Maybe you don't know the ultimate goal or where you're going. Do the next right thing. It's like one step in front of the other. Next right thing, next right thing. And then you
That's
build
it.
from there.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
So, when it comes to spreading our light, holding our light, and helping others. Is that the goal here, is to make everybody, make's not the right word, but to encourage everybody until we're this entire planet, till everybody is full of light? Or what would you say? I don't know
Yeah.
if you got any guidance from
Yeah.
your guides, but what's the end goal?
The end goal is for us to send a signal to the sun. So many people are waiting for the sun to give us the signal. And what I mean by this is, when our capacity to embody light is at a certain threshold, we call that the ascension point. And at the ascension point, we, through our consciousness, not our mind, thankfully, through our consciousness, we send a signal to the sun. And the signal is, we're ready. Here on planet Earth, we have reached a level of consciousness that now enables the sun to spark the next level of life here on planet Earth. And the next level of light on planet Earth is an ignition of consciousness, wherein the sun has this mass ejection. It's called a micronova, not a macro, a micronova. And that is a coronal ejection from the sun, the likes of which we have not seen on this planet in any kind of living history. I mean, it's been a couple of 100,000 years since we've seen a micronova of this type on our planet.
Wow.
At that point, the micronova becomes the signal for higher consciousness. That's the end of 3D. That's the beginning of 5D. But we see, it's not the sun that makes it happen. It's us that sends the signal to the sun that says, okay, we're ready. We can do it.
Yeah.
We can do it now. And the sun answers, and the sun blasts us with light, and we meet that light with our inner light. And that's ascension. That's what we came for. That's what this is all about.
Yeah. 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 And I loved how you explained that too, because so many people are waiting for the sun to do something. The solar flare. How many times you see that online? The great solar flare has to happen, but I've never heard it explained the way you did, which should empower us, because it's up to us. We're not waiting on something else to happen.
No,
we can make this happen by holding that light.
Absolutely. So many people talk about the Schumann resonance and they go, stuff's happening because of the Schumann resonance. No, the Schumann resonance is spiking because of us. If we understood how powerful our light was, we would stop playing small. And at some point, we've got to acknowledge, I am the thing that I was so afraid of being, which is ultimately powerful.
Yeah.
It's that beautiful poem. That Marianne Williamson poem, right? It is not our darkness that causes us such fear. It is our light. That is what we're ultimately afraid of. And we're going to have to confront that. At some point, we have to come into confrontation with our divinity and go, okay, this is who I am. And just accept it. Yeah, this is who I am. That's that moment when you accept your divinity. That is you speaking to the sun and saying, I am ready. The moment you acknowledge that divinity.
It sounds beautiful. I love it. I want it to happen right away.
I know.
It's like, do we have to wait? That's the human side of me, Kerry, going, come on. Let's go, guys. Let's go.
Exactly.
Oh, Kerry, this was so much fun talking to you. I appreciate you so much. Can you tell everyone a little bit more about your group that you do? Maybe they may want to become members.
Yeah, sure. So because I believe so strongly in practice and in doing the work every single week and in making it fresh and new, every single week I meet with my online community, and most of them are in the US, but pretty much all around the world. So we meet at different times each week, just so everyone gets a fair time zone. And I talk to them about their light and how to ignite it. And I walk them through practice, everyday practice. How do you overcome this? How do you work through that blockage? How do you move through that stagnant, stuck place? So we practice every single week, and people come in and they get ignited and they get excited, and that light within gets lit. But the beauty is we do it as a group, and you know what happens in a group? Exponential growth.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yep. So that happens.
It's that tribe, that community. Yeah. I love it.
It's so powerful. Yeah. It becomes so much bigger than what one person can do.
Right. And that was held against us for so long. I mean, the goal for the false matrix was keeping us apart because they know, once we get together, we truly are unstoppable.
Yeah.
And and this
Yeah.
is how we do it together.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yay.
And getting
Oh,
together in light is where it's at. That's
yes.
where the power is. Yeah.
Yep. Amazing. Thank you, Kerry. So appreciate you.
Thank you, Sunny. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for checking out today's episode of Real Talk. Real Talk is available as a podcast, which you can subscribe to for free through your favorite podcasting apps, but you can also visit us at unitednetwork.tv. You can also download our network apps on iOS, Android, Roku, Apple TV, and Fire TV. I'm Sunny Galt. This is Real Talk for the real world.